The fleet industry is changing. You can feel it. More women are stepping into leadership, more voices are being heard, and more progress is happening across the industry. But at the same time, there are still moments where some of us walk into a room and feel like we have to prove we belong before we even say a word. So I wanted to get honest about that. For this episode of Shades of Fleet, I asked women across the industry what they've experienced, what support actually looks like, and what they're doing to help move the industry forward. And here's what they said. Let's start here. Fleet has come a long way, but there are still some old school mindsets that show up. Sometimes it's obvious, while other times it's subtle. Sometimes it's in the room before anyone even says a word. So I started by asking what they've had to navigate and how these women have learned to handle it.
I don't know if this counts as an old school vibe, but I do work in fleet. I work in a very male dominated industry, and I have a lot of especially gentlemen who I am working with, especially our customers. And if they accidentally curse in front of me or if they swear in front of me, they get very nervous about it and they think that they've wildly offended me. I am not offended. I can usually out-curse them, but it always does kind of make me laugh that we have that kind of chivalristic, gentlemanly way of not wanting to swear in front of me. I always find it very sweet, but I can probably outswear them right under the table, so it never actually bothers me.
Well, fleet is still a very male-dominated field, and being a strong-willed woman with a lot of knowledge, but also a strong personality, can sometimes come across as intimidating to people who don't know me yet. So over time, I've learned that building rapport and relationships makes a huge difference. Once people get to know me and they understand where I'm coming from, then the initial assumptions tend to fade over time. For me, it's always been about staying authentic, doing the work well, and letting people see the real person behind the role.
Like many women in leadership, I've experienced moments where assumptions were made before I even had the opportunity to speak or share my perspective. And over time, I've learned that consistency and preparation and confidence in your gut go a long way, and that you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room, and that results ultimately speak for themselves.
Fleet can still have moments where you feel like you have to prove that you belong in the room, especially when you're one of the few women at the table. Early in my career, I definitely experienced that. And what helped was focusing on really understanding the operation, knowing the data, and consistently bringing solutions forward. Over time, people start to see the value that you bring, and the conversation shifts from proving yourself to contributing as a trusted voice.
Over the past 5 years in the trucking industry, I've definitely dealt with some of like the old school vibes that come along with the industry. Especially being kind of up against two different stereotypes of being in a male-dominated field with trucking and with IT. So we definitely deal with being talked over, underestimated, and even getting stereotyped in general. And I've always challenged that and kind of approached any of those challenges calmly and just been able to kind of prove people wrong and show them that I do deserve to be in this space, and what I have to say and what I can give to the company is worth having around.
In my career, I've been overtalked and underestimated, probably more times than I would care to admit otherwise. I think that a lot of the path forward for me was getting to a place where I understood that I wasn't going to be able to change every person in the room, that I would more often than not be the only woman in the room. And as a result of that, I knew that I had to change the way I thought about things. And the biggest one for me was to stop waiting to be comfortable, right? I've needed to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And oftentimes when I'm working with students or people that I'm being a mentor to, that is the very first talking point that I bring up. How comfortable are you being uncomfortable? And the quicker you can find comfort around the unknown, the better off it will be for you as you try to impact change in your business, on your team, in your industry at large. And so one of the best things for me was understanding that you could feel you have imposter syndrome, or you can feel that you're not quite ready because you don't know all the things yet. I had to get comfortable being okay with not knowing all of the things. But I had confidence and trust in myself that I would figure it out.
I find myself living at the intersection of two historically male-dominated fields, transportation and technology. As a result of that, I'm often the only woman in the room, and with a background in technology, I often feel that I need to prove myself. Even at one point being referred to as a little lady by a customer on a call, which we really need to shift away from that old school mindset and recognize that women should have a seat at the table and definitely be in leadership positions.
So my team actually consists only of men who are almost 10 to 15 years older than me. That was a challenge going in. I knew that would be a hurdle that I would have to face. It's not the first time that I have been put in this position before. And a lot of the way that I manage that is by, first of all, speaking at their level. I don't get offended by slips of the tongue, being called honey or sweetheart. That stuff doesn't really bother me. And I don't think that it negatively affects how I'm perceived. Because when I approach my team, I always approach them with the respect and the knowledge that I have. And through that competency, my team can see that I'm serious about what I do. I'm serious about their success, and I'm serious about everything that they bring to the table too. If they feel supported, it doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter who you are. All that matters is that they know that you're going to be supporting them, and that they can rely on you to make sure that their voices are heard as well.
I have worked for companies and management in the past that very much tried to keep me out of the technician role. I've had managers who have tried to coerce me into working behind the parts counter because they think it would be easier for me, or, suggesting I take a sort of front desk admin role, and, any type of position that involves doing paperwork all day is, kind of what I was always tried to be pushed into. And I had to set my foot down quite a lot and tell them that this is what I wanted to do and this is where I wanted to be. Probably for the first 5 years of my career, I was kept at an entry-level technician role. I would beg for training, and I would never receive it. I would try to watch the higher level techs and learn from them, and I would always get pulled away from it. And it was just overall a really horrible experience for about the first 5 years of my career. But as I kind of taught myself and grew my skills, it became easier. But working for this company, being mobile and having the kind of freedom and every resource imaginable has really made me find a newfound love for being a technician. I've always had to fight for my role and fight for a right to be here and be on the same playing field as everybody else.
You want to talk about old school vibes? When I stepped into the trucking industry, the message, spoken or unspoken, was pretty clear. Women aren't leaders here. And honestly, I heard it, I felt it, and I wasn't imagining it. But here's what I decided early on. I wasn't going to fight that perception with words. I was going to prove it wrong with my work every single day. I pushed through the doubt. I pushed through the rooms where I was underestimated. And every time something inside me said, maybe you don't belong here, I came back with one answer: I will do it. Not I'll try, not maybe, I will. That mindset is what got me to where I am today as Director of Billing for Cox Fleet. And it's something I carry with me into every challenge I face, every team I lead, and every barrier I see someone else up against. The industry is changing, and I'm proud to be a part of that change.
My pet peeve is if people speak down to me. That is a trigger for me. And so what I've done to combat that is I make sure that I am knowledgeable. I will do the homework. I will try to figure out how to have a good working knowledge of the subject matter that I am in order to make sure that I can command respect. I have also been a person who is direct. And so when I experience something that is negative in behavior, one of the things that I have done is make sure I call it out, because I think sometimes people are not aware of the things that they are doing that are creating a negative experience. And so I think it is very important that if you have the political capital or you feel comfortable in speaking up, to really speak to people about that behavior and how they're showing up and how it's coming off to you, in order for them to have the opportunity to change that perception in the future. I find something humorous that I can kind of soften the blow at times in order to have the serious conversation. And so I feel like that puts people in a comfortable place.
What's one old school vibe that I've had to navigate? It's one that still has to be navigated in the industry at large. And that is, for some reason, we are still unwilling to broaden who we see as mechanics or fleet professionals. Images don't have representation. Job titles are not neutral or have representation. And I've worked with groups that are literally offended at the idea of taking man out of a title. And I believe if we want to move forward in this industry and really branch out to new potential talent, we need to be more inclusive, less exclusive. We can call somebody a worker. They don't have to be a something man. Our young people are smarter than that, and they deserve better than that.
There's always been this old school mindset of, females don't belong in the shop or out in the field. And, we're getting to the point where there's practically no trace of that anymore.
There's usually a moment when something shifts, when you go from feeling like you're still figuring it out to realizing your voice actually carries weight. Maybe people start listening differently, or maybe you just see your perspective change the outcome. Maybe you realize you don't have to know everything to have something worth saying.
I learned that my voice mattered in the trucking industry and at our company when a lot of vice presidents started to actually look for my opinion and my advice when we were working on projects together or starting to roll out a new product, and they appreciated having my help and would listen to any opinions I had on how we should do rollouts or what path we should go down for a project.
For me, that realization happened gradually over time. As I gained more experience in fleet, I started to develop a strong instinct for how things work. And a lot of my insights initially came from gut feeling based on experience. But over time, I learned how to back that up with data. And once I started pairing the instincts with real data, people began to rely on my input more. And I eventually became one of the go-to subject matter experts for fleet. And that was a really meaningful moment because it showed that the knowledge and experience that I'd built up over time truly mattered.
I think a moment that really stands out for me is when I pushed back on a fleet decision that had been made at an executive level without the full operational picture. I laid out the data and the impact, and leadership actually shifted direction. It reminded me that bringing operational reality to the table really matters. And it's our job as fleet professionals to speak up when something doesn't add up.
I realized that my voice really mattered when I stopped feeling like I had to have every answer to every question. I understand that leadership is often about asking the right questions of my team or asking the right questions of the customer. And the fleet industry is really constantly evolving, and it's so much about creating alignment between what the customer needs and what our technicians and what our team is able to deliver. And so I really want to empower others to have that alignment and empower the people that have the technical expertise to really have that seat at the table with the customer to ensure that we are showing up in the right way.
I realized my voice mattered at work when I started to uncover processes on the operational side of our business that didn't account for my team's administrative time. It is really important to make sure that when you're calculating profitability, that you're including your operations team's investment in whatever process is being done to execute on revenue. At one point, we were working on what we call our purchase program, which is a program where we help clients find vehicles and help secure them using our vendor relationships. And that program was never designed to have an upfit component, but we were being asked as a team to design upfit for this particular program. What we found was that their engagement wasn't actually being included in the profitability for that particular product that we offer. So I was able to work with other operational leaders within the organization to make sure that my team's time was accounted for, and that when we look at profitability as a whole, that we are making sure that that is backed out and that we are still profitable on the product and that we're still able to provide this to our clients in a reasonable and profitable way for everybody involved.
Early on, I noticed a big gap in what companies thought was happening to their customer versus what was actually happening to their customer. So I got really close to it and I started listening and watching and then speaking up and using real examples of how our processes were impacting the people that we had designed them for. And honestly, as soon as I started doing that, everything changed. And I firmly believe that when you are in the customer's corner and you're speaking on behalf of what their actual experience is, you really can't go wrong.
I have been very blessed to be able to work at a company like Cox Fleet. We have a strong culture that every voice matters. Everybody's voice is expected to be heard. And that doesn't mean it has to be in your silo or a box. Everyone can have an opinion. There's a very humble culture that we instill, and it is a perspective that just because your title says you're here does not mean that you know everything. Having that psychological safety to be able to challenge the status quo. I think it is very important from an industry perspective is that people are one of the most valuable assets that we have. And so making sure that we are using that collective brain power in a way that benefits us is a tremendous asset to us as an organization and something I value as a leader.
Support is one of those words that gets used a lot. But what actually makes a difference day to day isn't always what shows up in the polished version. Sometimes it's trust. Other times it's honesty. Sometimes it's somebody making room, backing you up, or giving you the space to grow. Here's what support really looks like in practice.
I love having the support group that I do, all of my fellow peers who help speak up for me if need be. And my management team is the most supportive I've ever had in my career, which makes every day so much easier.
For me, support at work looks like having someone who genuinely wants to see you grow and succeed. For me, that person has been my boss, Taylor. She's been there from the very beginning, has helped me understand all the ins and outs of the trucking business, and is always there whenever I have any questions. I think it is so important to have strong female leadership in the workplace to help mentor and support other women to succeed in the trucking business.
My manager, Ava, is definitely one of the biggest supports that I've had in my 5-year career at the Pete store. She's the one that hired me, and she's given me so many chances throughout my 5 years here, including my most recent promotion into the IT projects administrator role. And it's given me the chance to kind of learn more about myself and kind of chase a passion I have for getting more involved in project management, which has been a great path for me, and it's helped our company kind of grow and expand our IT team as well, which has been great.
For me, support really comes down to access to information and trust. It's having a manager who's clear about expectations, but also gives me the space to understand the bigger picture and figure things out. And it's colleagues who are willing to share information and talk through processes instead of keeping the knowledge siloed. And it's also about honest feedback, being able to have those direct conversations when needed while knowing that the people around me have my back and they trust that my intentions are good.
For me, support looks like leaders who trust you to own the problem and back you when you raise concerns. It's also teammates who will pick up the phone, collaborate, and work through operational challenges together. Fleet really is a team sport, and I've been fortunate enough to work with leaders who really gave me the space to challenge assumptions and bring solutions forward.
To me, support is having an ally either at your level or above your level for somebody who will give you direct feedback on whether or not what you're doing is stupid. Fundamentally, I can go to one of my counterparts and say, is this a good idea? And she will give me feedback on not only if it's a good idea and if I should proceed with it, but probably the best people to engage with as I proceed, and in general, the best method for proceeding that's going to give me the solution that I am looking to gain from whatever we're working on. Likewise, she can come to me for the same kind of feedback. We are just able to be 100% transparent and honest with each other and build each other up in a way where we feel like we're increasing the value of all of the products we bring to the organization by collaborating.
Real support is having people in your corner, even if you're not in the room. And that is built on relationships. It's built on trust. But the teams that really move the needle, they're genuinely rooting for each other's success. And that's not just good for the business. That is, I think, the big difference on what makes somebody actually like their job and like their team and really want to show up for the company and crush it, is somebody who really feels like everybody that's there is rooting for them and cheering them on, and they're cheering on everybody else around them.
Real support in the workplace looks like trust, and trust paired with accountability. It's leaders who give you space in a room to share that expertise, to hold high standards of the people that we work with. It's peers who collaborate openly and challenge each other with respect. It's the kind of environment where people do their best work when they're really empowered to lean into what it is that they do best.
For me, support looks like two things: sponsorship and mentorship. And if I really had to choose one, it's sponsorship over mentorship. Mentorship is someone guiding me and giving me advice on my career and projects that I'm working on. Sponsorship is someone bringing my name up in a closed-door meeting when I'm not there. Real support is a senior leader saying, we need someone to lead this team or project, and she's the right person for the job. Let's put her in charge.
I had an executive sponsor, and I had this person in my life, and it was before even the term executive sponsor existed. And one of the things that I strive to do is, if somebody does something for me that I found helpful and beneficial, I make sure that I try to find the same opportunity to do that for someone else. I think as a leader, sometimes we forget that how decisions are made at a leadership level is not common knowledge. And so this person really took the time to explain, I am assigning you this project, and what I want you to do and how I want you to show up, your name should be synonymous with this project. You should know what's going on. I think the other piece to that is being very vocal. Somebody would made it a point to speak up for me in rooms where I was not there, to tout my experiences, to vouch for me. And so I also do those things. I use my political capital to effectively vouch for others and stand up for them in rooms where they may not be able to be.
What does support look like for me? Removing barriers, being entrusted to do a job, to get results, and being recognized for my ability to do such. And if I need barriers moved, support in my eyes is my leadership being willing to move those barriers in order to help me achieve the goals for the organization at large.
One thing that has come through in all of these conversations: nobody is here waiting around for change to happen. They're already in it, building better systems and rethinking old processes, opening doors and shifting culture, moving the industry forward in ways big and small. Here's what that looks like right now.
I'm trying to change the narrative around fleets and fleet management. Fleets are not just a necessary evil or a means to an end. Fleet management isn't just buying and fixing cars. And the skilled trades that support this organization are not just wrench turners, but incredibly intelligent, complex problem solvers. Fleet management is a business. It's a business with 8 or 9 different disciplines in which need to be mastered in order for your fleet to be run well. And executives should really be understanding that if the narrative goes from a necessary evil or a business line item, an expense line item, to a business partner that has powerful data that can help your organization, then I'll feel like I've made some progress in this conversation.
I'm very proud to be part of the culture shift in fleet nowadays, allowing more females into the field and welcoming them, and our numbers are growing every day. I meet so many more female technicians that I never knew existed, and it's wonderful.
My team and I are helping standardize customization and upfit. So everybody wants a custom upfit. And during COVID, that was a big push for driver retention, making sure that your driver had exactly what your driver wanted in their vehicle to make sure they didn't go looking somewhere else for a similar job. The problem with that is it doesn't really take into account total cost of ownership, and it's not really scalable or repeatable across many different branches and location. My team and I work really hard to make sure that our clients feel like they're getting the same customization, the same bespoke packages, that their drivers have the ergonomic and organizational advantages that they would want from a wholly custom package, but that package is repeatable across different locations and different business segments. Helping our clients determine what they should customize and what they should hold back on is something that I'm very much engaged in right now, and something that I think will have a really big impact on the revenue of our fleets and our clients' fleets moving forward.
I'm focused on strengthening fleet processes and visibility internally so that teams can make faster, better decisions and keep operations running smoothly. A lot of fleet operations still rely on manual workarounds. So I've been working on tightening approval structures, improving data visibility, and strengthening coordination across our field teams.
One of the biggest things I'm working on right now is helping to build a connected fleet system. Historically, a lot of fleet operations run through multiple disjointed systems that don't always talk to each other. So we're working to change that by building a system from the ground up that connects all of those pieces. It's a big undertaking because it involves so many different facets of the business, from data to operations, technology, accounting, and fleet. But the goal is to create a system that actually works together. It's a lot of work up front, but we believe that building our own technology and infrastructure will really pay off long term and give us much better visibility and control over our fleet.
Right now, the biggest change I'm driving is breaking down legacy data silos by migrating products to a unified cloud-based architecture. For a long time, the transportation industry has relied on fragmented on-premise systems. Dispatch lived in one software, maintenance in another, and routing was somewhere else entirely. I'm leading to push the integrations of these disparate systems into a single cloud platform. It's not just about moving data to the cloud. It's about fundamentally transforming how the business operates by building robust APIs and integrations and establishing a reliable cloud infrastructure. It's a massive technological shift for the old school industry of transportation, but it's the exact foundation fleets need to survive and scale in today's supply chain.
One of the big changes I have been pushing in the fleet industry is adoption of new technology solutions. Internally, what do we need to do to look at how we are operating and look at that process from an end-to-end perspective and determining new ways of working or how we can reimagine a process that we've had before that served us, take the good from it, and then also determine where are our pain points operationally and then improve upon that design. I'm really looking forward to seeing how technology will continue to evolve, how the industry moves forward, and how it helps us provide a very consistent experience that we may not have been able to offer before some of these technologies existed.
Behind a lot of career turning points, there's usually someone who helped make the path a little clearer. Someone who opened a door, someone who took a chance, or said your name in a room you weren't in yet. So I asked who that person was and what they did that actually made a difference.
I've had a lot of amazing people throughout my career who helped me along the way. One person who really stands out is my first boss in Fleet. He took a chance on me when I didn't have a lot of direct experience yet. I mostly just had curiosity and the drive to learn. What made him such a great mentor and boss was that he asked a lot of questions and guided me towards my own answers. He listened more than he talked, and in that silence, he pushed me to think through problems and build confidence in my own decisions. And that approach really stuck with me throughout the years.
One of my first managers, and one of my only female managers, actually, her name was Kathleen Panato, and she gave me my very first team. And we talked a lot about where I wanted to go in my career, and I always knew that I wanted to lead people. And she taught me something that was really important, which was eventually you have to be somebody that's going to give someone their first shot. So I was really lucky to have her as one of my few female bosses, but I've honestly been lucky across the board with most of my bosses and my managers in my career, male, female. Being a good ally is really about seeing somebody's potential and giving them those opportunities and seeing them through that.
I've been fortunate enough to have many allies throughout my career that didn't just offer encouragement, but created opportunities. As a female in a very male-dominant business, that has been helpful. These allies have invited me to important conversations. They have trusted me with responsibilities. They have reinforced my perspective in the room. And those actions, while they might seem small, they've actually had a lasting impact on my confidence and my career growth.
I actually have two shout outs to make because together they represent a complete life cycle of what real support looks like. The first shout out is to Rishi Mehra, who quite literally opened the door of opportunity for me 3 years ago when I stepped into this role. What made a difference wasn't just that he took a chance on me, but it was his consistency. He has been my mentor for many years prior and has continued to be a steady guiding force over the years. He proved that true support is a long-term investment. My second shout out goes to Bill Kane, who kept that door open. Bill actively brought me into complex conversations and took the time to educate me on the ins and outs of the TMS space. He's got such a wealth of knowledge in the industry, and it was fantastic to work with somebody who could share that with me. The copyable takeaways for others: don't just give someone a title and walk away. Copy what Rishi and Bill did. Advocate, include, and educate. Open the door, but then actively pull that person into high-level meetings and share your domain knowledge like Bill did so that we have the context to actually succeed once they are in the room.
I actually want to shout out two people who helped open doors for me, and that's our Chief Operating Officer, Amy Hudson, and my boss, the Director of Products, Candace Morley. With them, it's more of a question of what doors did they not open for me as opposed to which one specific door did they open for me. Once they realized that I was pretty confident, passionate, and that I wanted to drive change within the organization, both of them have gone out of their way to make sure that I had access to the tools and funding that I needed to do what I needed to do. Amy constantly touts me to the executive leadership team when I come up with any kind of process change that could have a positive effect on our organization. Candace makes sure that when I give myself to my team and I'm pouring into their cups to make sure that they have what they need emotionally to succeed, that she's filling my cup on the back end and making sure that I have what I need and that I feel supported and that I'm not running myself ragged, chasing after my team and making sure that they're being compliant and understanding.
One of the most impactful things an ally can do is simple. Bring someone into the conversation early and genuinely listen to their perspective. And I think that's why organizations like AFLA and even NEFA are so important, because it brings so many fleet professionals together to share their perspective and find where things are similar and where things are different and find those solutions together.
Looking ahead, I wanted to end on what comes next. What do these women want the next generation to experience more of, less of, and what's one thing that could help get us there faster? Here's what these women want to see change.
I'd love for the next generation of women to know that there is absolutely a place for you in fleet. You don't have to come in knowing everything about vehicles or maintenance. What really makes someone successful in this field is curiosity, problem solving, and the ability to adapt when things change quickly. Fleet throws a ton of unexpected challenges at you, so being flexible and willing to learn is what really matters. And I think the more we highlight those skills, the more women will see that they have a lot to contribute to this industry.
I hope that the next generation of women coming into either the IT industry, the trucking industry, or both just feel supported and know that they are worth taking up the space in this industry and that they deserve to be here.
So looking ahead, my hope and goal will be for the next generation of women in fleet is to give them more access, to give them more sponsorship, and to believe in their capabilities and their leadership. And I think that when we invest in talent and make space for diverse voices and allow them a seat at the table, that our industry will become stronger. And so that is my commitment as a female leader in this space, is to give more access.
When I think about next generation of women coming into the fleet industry, I ask myself, what do I want their experience to look like? More than anything, I want them to have seats at the table, and I mean a real seat at the table. Not just a chair in the room, but a voice that's heard and a presence that's respected. I want them to be able to look up and actually see women leading, because when you see it, you believe you can be it. What I want them to experience less of is that feeling of walking into a space and wondering if you belong there, and the exhausting, invisible work of constantly proving yourself just to be taken seriously. No one should have to fight that hard just to be seen. So what's going to get us there? I believe it starts at the top. When leadership at every level make an intentional decision to change the culture, everything shifts. The way teams are built, the way talent is recognized, and the way women are developed and promoted. Culture doesn't change by accident. It changes when the people with influence decide it's a priority. That's the work, and I'm committed to being a part of it.
We shouldn't have to fight for our spot to be here, and I'm sure any female technician you talk to will tell you, I've had to work twice as hard to be here than all the other guys did, and it's true. I've had to. I know plenty of other female techs who have had to, and I don't want to see any of that for the next generations of female techs to come. I love to see the support that we are finally getting nowadays, and I just want to see that grow and get better and better in the future. And I think it would make a world of difference, at least having one person, whether it's another technician or your manager or whoever, just kind of, letting you know, hey, I've got your back. Let me know whatever you need. It honestly makes a world of difference, and it kind of helps boost your confidence level. I think these next generations of female technicians are going to completely shine and be so welcomed and so comfortable. It's going to completely change the industry.
I want the next generation of women in fleet to be louder and bolder and almost impossible to ignore. Because here's the thing. women already get it. They're consistently giving the best product feedback because they know the business needs, because it's the same instinct that they use at home. They're managing a million things at once. And when they bring that into the workplace, it's really powerful, and something that the industry needs really badly is that kind of thinking around what's the information, what's the data that I need, how do I need to make my next decision, and where is that at my fingertips? I think that women should feel very confident in their voices with that. I think that they're fantastic at that. And I would love for louder voices when it comes to that feedback, either in the product or in the data. Women got it.
I would love the next generation of women in fleet who just experience more collaboration and visibility and feel less like they have to prove that they belong. One thing that will really help us get there is bringing in more diverse voices into our decision-making conversations earlier and not after the plan is already built. I'm proud to be part of an industry that's evolving, and I'm excited to see more women helping lead that change.
I want the next generation of women working as fleet managers to know the importance of community. One of the things that I am a champion of is that if your community doesn't exist, it is up to you to build it. If you see it, you can be it. And if you don't see it, you have to build it. And so, wanting the next generation for women in fleet management to really build that professional development community, create mentor-protege programs that help you commiserate with other like-minded women in this space and other allies in this space that are advocates and supporters, and making certain that you get the time and the attention that you need in your career to be successful.
I would love if women in fleet could experience the passion that I feel for this job. I've always been into cars. I've always loved vehicles. And I love getting that first look at OEMs and upfitters when they come up with a new product or a new trim or a new vehicle. That excitement, it's like opening presents on Christmas morning. And I would love for more women to get exposure to that. And sometimes it's hard. I think that we can get more people involved on that by potentially opening up those kind of publications. Work Truck Show in Indy in March is a great example of that. I think more women associates who typically don't get to be vendor facing should go to that and get to experience those things on a firsthand basis so that they get a good understanding of what's in the market space and what innovations are out there that drive the things that they see in the world every day. Because if you see the impact that you have in the world, that's really going to ignite your passions, and it becomes more than just a job for you. It becomes a way of life and a passion project.
The short answer is I want women in the next generation to experience much, much more representation than we've seen over the last 30 years. Be creative in where we're going to find our next generations of skilled trades entirely. Find ways to be inclusive. Be really careful to look hard at your recruiting and your languages and your identifiers to make sure that it's not accidentally excluding. Young people need us to be doing better than that. And frankly, they should expect it from us.
If there's one message that comes through in all of this, it's that change in fleet doesn't just happen on its own. It happens because people speak up, support each other, and make space where there wasn't space before. And the more we do that, the stronger this industry gets. If this conversation resonated with you, we've been building on this across the Shades of Fleet series. We started with new voices, hearing what it's like to step into the industry for the first time. Then Black voices, digging into visibility, leadership, and what it really takes to grow in fleet. And next up, we're focusing on technician voices, the people doing the work on the ground every day and shaping the future of this industry in a completely different way. I'm Lauren Fletcher. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.